This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent, powered by the Source Home Group. Shout out to Cody Walker. Little live chat here, Friday AM. Let's get it started. Got a lot to say. Didn't do a recap last night, but posted everyone look for dips. Remember, the market's choppy. We think it's going to resolve higher to set a bull trap because everybody's bearish and the news is pumping bad news, but the market's holding up. It's really that simple. A lot of people who have not been trading for long periods of time or have not been caught in these traps tend to not survive like we have and be where we're at. So, got lucky sometimes. I don't know. Luck is made by your knowledge and being willing to do what others won't. So, can I get a mic check real quick? Again, just want people to jump on in and look at CF put out the alert to buy that on the dip this AM. Yeah, everything looking pretty solid. XOP up 3 points, Mosaic up $2. Talked about buying Roblox dip. It's holding 29. We'll see what happens here. I mean, not surprised. Tech is lagging. Tesla had bad news. Seems to be finding a little bit of a base. But we'll see what it is. Anyway, questions? Let's get started. Audio's good. Mic works. Awesome. What do you think? Down or up? Down or up? I mean, I still think we resolve higher. Much higher in the sense of from this range. Here, I'll talk about why. SPY. I've said this for weeks. If you get into the chop action and the seasonality takes effect, you probably will rise into January. Probably earnings, probably the Fed meeting. Because they're going to talk about easing their rate hikes. They're going to talk about hitting their terminal rate. It's all a bunch of noise, but it's part of the process of trapping. The bigger the moves, the bigger the chop, the bigger the trap. I always tell people that. Like, everyone thinks like today has to be the day the market breaks out. Today has to be the day the market dumps. No. Doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Now, we know there's data coming tomorrow or next week. There's going to be Fed meeting in January. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but again, people don't realize like chop is the process. It's part of the process here. And honestly, I mean, when you look at the put call ratios, the sentiment, and again, when you become somebody who's been doing this for a long time and you talk to a lot of people, when the dumbest people are always bearish or bullish at the wrong times, you tend to take note of that and you pay attention to that. And right now, everybody's screaming recession. Is it the Feb 1st? Okay, man, they usually have that March one, like middle of March, so surprised. Thought it might be a little earlier, but whatever. It's not surprising to me that the market's playing games, chopping here, while the biggest, like what I would consider, again, just novices, read the news and they go, well, the news said we're in a recession, the market's going to crash. Okay, and the market and the news said in 2020 when we were like, COVID's coming, the market's going to dump, look, China's fallen off a cliff, and they said everything's going to be fine. And then at the lows, they say oil is done. Oil goes to negative futures rate, turns like around. I mean, if you start understanding the market for what it is, again, a game meant to take the most amount of money from the most amount of people, you start realizing, like, after you get caught in these traps, that you learn from, like, the news flow and the sentiment and how the average person is wired to fail. It's like bookies, casinos, whatever. Like, the game is meant to take your money. So if you're doing what the game is telling you to, you're following the rules, fundamentals, whatever, especially for trading. Now, again, long-term holding is a different ballgame. You better have the right names, but just in general, like, the market's trying to always extract capital from you. And the more you trade, the more accessible that is. It's like donating to an ATM. Hence why people who trade all or nothing are gambling. We've talked about trading in, trading out. Talked about yesterday taking profits on names. And what did we do this morning? Bought dips. I mean, it's really that simple. It is really that simple. I mean, I know followers who are doing really well. If you want to chime up, I mean, again, I can see what's going on in the beginner room, on the Discord room. Keep it simple. Are we always right? No. I mean, that's just a part of it. The machine is meant to trick you. You can understand a lot of the tricks and sidestep them, or try to manage your losses, but being correct all the time just isn't possible. So we've pivoted to a choppy market, trade around it. I think, obviously, if you look at the SPY, I mean, keep it real simple. You have a plethora of moving averages all coalescing around the upper 380s. I mean, I think we touched there at some point. I mean, you can see this 388 area. Again, people are saying the bears are eating the bulls' lunch. I don't agree at all. Like, Mr. Oops, if you're listening, go look at some of the leadership. It is eating bears out, actually. Like, bears are losing in certain names, getting blown out as they rise higher and make new higher highs. Like, that to me isn't bearish. Now, I know you look at the market in general, people look at the market and they go, well, it looks bearish, bullish. It's like, no, there is leadership here. There's very, very, very clear leadership here. We've talked about it. Financials, talked about look at what Deutsche Bank was doing, looking at FedEx, looking at some of these industrials, some of these names that are just flying. Gold leading up too. I mean, I always tell people, like, gold does the best. Everyone thinks gold does great when the market dumps. No, gold does best in a nice, calm market that has a little bit of fear in it and inflation, and it's been freaking cooking. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I mean, these rants are meant to help you folks out there who have never experienced this. Because imagine doing this 20 years and being caught in traps and trying to survive and being like a cockroach trying to not get smashed. And that's your goal when you're learning. Not putting a ton of capital on the line to learn these lessons. Or you follow us. Your tuition bill hopefully is significantly less. But even then, if you can't mentally execute, you can have all the knowledge in the world and you'll still fail. It's no different than professional golfers. All of a sudden, they can't hit 3-foot putts. They can't hit a 6-foot putt. It's all mental at that point. Can you execute? Can you take profits when you have to? Can you buy when you have to? Can you do what your plans are? Bigger trend, though, is down. We're still under a longer trend correction. Not Jodofish, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong and insult you. It's just, how about just J? Jobsa. We might be in a bear market, but if you study the past bear markets, what happened with GDP was 2.9, 3.2% third quarter. It's coming down. The market's very good at discounting the future. And so that's where I think the market rising would give people the best reasons to chase this market as they're in cash. The market makers unload, then dump. I mean, that's the thing. These cycles take years to play out, potentially months. Like, we're not even, and I agree, longer term trend is probably down at this point, but doesn't mean it doesn't resolve. And this could absolutely be March until it resolves. Hey, my software got kicked off. Can I double check you guys can hear me? That was weird. I mean, look at Amazon. They cut workforce. The market, it drops $2. It rallies back. CRM cuts 10% of its workforce. It rallies. Tesla, bad news. I mean, it's been absolutely obliterated. It's still holding up. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, for some reason the internet dropped. Maybe someone was attacking my VPN. I'm just kidding. I have no clue. Yeah, I'm with you, Jay. Like, that March action is probably going to be the timetable. It doesn't mean we can't get like a pop and correction and chop. It just, at this point, it seems very obvious the market wants to play the game of new money, rally, buying the weakness, buying. Remember, we talked about the last phase of an up move is usually the trash leading. Like, we haven't even seen Tesla lead. We haven't even seen, I mean, I consider Apple now trash because it's a laggard. You haven't seen, I guess MicroStrategy has popped some, but you know what I mean? Like, the actual real trash. And I'm not talking about, like, I mean, you can talk about GameStop and Bed Bath & Beyond and AMC, but that's typically, like, I can't even say that on audio. Let's just think of what's the worst of the worst, right? Like, people who own those names for the long run think they're going to get rich. Sadly mistaken. So, congrats. I mean, again, we can review XOP, Roblox, CF, the market, oil. I know a lot of people are really trying to get on, really trying to get on the natural gas train. Let's look at that because, I mean, I think you got it. think they got it. I think that's the bottom. But I'd like to see bigger volume. But remember, the volume didn't really kick in until it started rallying. I hate, again, trading view. I don't like the way it looks. This is the 1 hour. The problem with nat gas is how to play it. I think you get the best of both worlds playing the XOP. You know, it's oil and gas producers without the dump. There you go, Roblox. Come right on back, my friend. I hope that makes sense. I mean, a lot of people, I think, are trying to play nat gas through UNG or boil or one of those. Now, again, I mean, if you want to play with fire, then here is my recipe for playing with fire. When the heat's up high, don't get in big. Don't try to grab the pot. Grab the name. Like, try to just very lightly touch it and see if it's hot. If it burns you, okay. It burns. But you don't know until the price action what, like, builds. And that's what's so hard with UNG is that, I mean, this thing has just been absolutely obliterated. And it does that. If you've studied the past, I mean, I always can tell people who are, like, really going after UNG. I'm like, did you study the past on this thing? And they're like, what do you mean study the past? It's like, zoom. I mean, I know there's a lot of lines here, but this is the nature of this product. Zing-a-zing-zow, turd. So, anyway, let's get some questions. Cutting employees is bullish for the company because it's getting cost cutting. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, near term, that's how the market's reacting. It's like, oh, you need to lean up. You need to throw the kitchen sink out with, kitchen sink the quarter, or throw the baby out with the bathwater. And when it reacts that way, again, is it long-term bullish? We don't know. Remember, when the Feds actually start cutting, it's typically bearish, right? Because they're anticipating even crazier stuff. Right now, them raising and flattening out, I mean, the market's going to, again, I have to pivot my mindset. Well, that doesn't look bearish. Yeah, Freeport, gap and go, breakout. I mean, these are things you don't see if the market's about to dump. And that's why people who are like, oh, the bears are winning. I'm like, the bears are not winning if you dig in to the underlying market participants. If you look solely at the SPY, you go, well, okay, yeah, bears might be winning. But if you start zooming into certain names, is it? I mean, I was looking at this one, Southern Copper. Yeah, is that really? I mean, market's bearish. Copper should be rolling over. Why is copper not at 46 to 52? Someone was asking, I mean, one of these guys who follows us, Italian guy, super nice, but just it's like, oh, I got a short Caterpillar last week or whatever. I'm like, this doesn't look bearish. It just doesn't look bearish, man. It just doesn't look bearish. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about nat gas. I'd rather just buy oil. It's a simpler trade, simpler setup. We talked about the mid-70s, testing the backside of the trend line. We're not catching the bottom with natural gas. Now, again, if oil bottoms, then natural gas should follow. So I agree with the potential of it. But if it's like, if you don't want to deal with the headaches of natural gas, XOP and oil seem to be a lot easier. Now, again, easy is relative. But to me, I like to not overthink it sometimes. And we said XOP, this is the easiest trade out there. Hits the trend line, 2-day range, or multi-day range. Sorry, 2 green days, but multi-day range. You could buy it down here. Now we have a nice little gap. Is that a professional gap? And go? Or is it a gap and trap? I guess you don't know. But I like the action as of right now. You can't argue that. Because think about it. I mean, this thing corrected 25%. Right? Since November, that's corrected 25%. I guess it makes sense if nat gas has gotten not blatantly, but absolutely imploded. I mean, it all makes sense. I like nat gas for the trade. I hate trading nat gas. So that's where it's like, I'll do my own thing and let you guys who want to play that game go right ahead. It's a choice. Yeah, the risk reward. Do I want big risk with nat gas? I hate the UNG. I mean, that to me is the easiest way to play it, or boil. But these leverage ETFs have been nothing but scary. Where, yeah, people say, oh, you got volume capitulation. Yeah, I mean, I see it, but then you make lower lows. It's just going to play a game. I mean, you have to be willing, and with these names, and again, like, here's my system for these names that are very difficult. It's like buying Tesla. I mean, I bought just a little bit of it. I'm like, I can't buy more of it. I don't trust it. And what does it do? It makes a lower low. Well, I'm not sitting here stressing out of it because I have a full position. I have a very minimal position, and when it feels comfortable, I might add, or I might just move on to other things. Because I don't want to like invest mental capital in trying to pick bottoms in products that have been acting like shit, or names that have been acting like shit. Because it's just hard, right? Like you see the SPY ripping, and you're like, if you own Freeport-McMoRan or Southern Copper or some of these other names, or like CF bottoming in the 80 area, Mosaic bottoming at 42, 43, AA on the dips, XOP. I mean, whatever name you want to pick. Again, I personally think I could have had better names, but I'm like the material catch-up trade. But I mean, we talked about like financials. Like people are like, oh, the market's about to roll over. Bears are winning. Like, shut your trap. You're not looking at the bigger, broader market. Like, look at the XLF. It's making higher highs off the lows. That's not bearish, the market. I mean, I think a lot of people just look at the SPY and the QQQ only, and they just don't pay attention. I mean, I talked about this, and I keep saying it over and over and over again about Deutsche Bank. I hate this. But does this look bearish? Does this look like the market's about to roll over if Deutsche Bank is going from $7 up to $12? You know, they're a big issue. Talk about, you know, Boeing, right? If the market's about to roll over and you're telling me the bears are winning, then why the fuck is Boeing ripping to new not 50 weeks, but new highs? That's not bearish. I was talking about like the China ETF. Look at this. Check this out. The reopening. I mean, market about to roll over. We're in the chop and they're making new highs. I don't know. EWG, Germany. I mean, does that look like it's about to roll over? Emerging markets. Do they look like they're about to roll over? I mean, people are just like tunnel vision. And some of the people in the Discord room, I'm like, well, how are you not seeing this? Oh, the bears are winning? I mean, I don't know. It's been more of a trade around a position game. Now, if you think Apple and Tesla are the only thing and the tech is the only thing in the market, then you don't understand how money rotates. Again, it's not a perfect science, but materials seem to be catching bids. Certain industrials seem to be catching bids. Emerging markets, foreign markets are catching bids. Things you don't see if the market's about to roll over. I feel like I say this over and over, and I'm talking to people sometimes in the Discord room or hit me up. They don't see the bigger picture. Again, you have to. That's why I recommend if you are trading, have a computer with multiple screens so you can flip through and just not look at one stock or the one S&P 500 chart. Look at a bunch of stuff. You got to dig in deep. The market is the sum of its whole parts, and sometimes the sum doesn't look as weak or as strong as it portrays. Right? What have we talked about? The IWM. IWM up. Every day the market's been up, the IWM has been up more. If the market's up 7.7%, the IWM's at 1%. We said watch where it lagged, and when it did and it peaked, market dumped. Now what? Now it's holding up pretty damn well. Your guess is as good as mine here sometimes. I mean, again, that's why people try to act like they're omnipotent or are playing the game through like, I am trying to be right. I'm trying to be right versus trying to do what the market is doing. You're going to learn at some point your opinion doesn't matter. And you have to be willing to change your opinions, and you have to be willing to pivot. And people say, oh, you're a sellout or you change your mind. No shit, Sherlock. I'm trying to do what the market's doing, and I've been doing this a long time. And I know if I marry beliefs versus do what the market's going to do, guess what? It's probably better to do what the market's going to do than to say, well, I have to be bearish, and I have to be bullish, and I have to be on this political spectrum of the aisle in the market. No, I'm telling you, you can't be like that. You just can't. So, I don't know. This conversation is meant for people to hear it. So, SMH stocks, short-term trading, Soxel. Yeah, I mean, the SMH, we talked about this. A recap 2 days ago. Holding high and tight. Doesn't look bad. I mean, I pulled up the MU chart and was like, Micron doesn't look bearish, right? Now AMD looks like crap. Nvidia, mediocre. But look at Taiwan Semi looks a little better. It's making higher highs off the lows. I mean, again, it's just tech is the hardest. If you've been trading for more than 5 years and you've been in a sector that has momentum and then lost it, then you know what it feels like to trade names that have lost momentum. When they lose momentum, the market can still rise and those names can go nowhere. That's why tech, QQQ, if you study the 2000s, went nowhere, while the S&P 500, the IWM and materials names, banks, housing went fire. Right? Because they didn't mind higher interest rates. Tech loves deflation, lower interest rates. Would we not agree we're living in a time where it's probably going to be inflation, exaggerated inflation constantly over time? I mean, they can't put the genie back in the bottle unless rates get higher than CPI. Well, they're hoping CPI comes down and that they can stop their terminal rates and find it. No, I don't know. UVIX, bullish divergence looks... again, I hate the UVXY. I hate those names. I hate trading them until it's very obvious. UVIX, I mean, I can look at it. It's just the charting of these things don't matter. They honestly, they just don't matter. These charts are absolutely broken. What's it? Long futures. Yeah, I just don't. I hate these VIX products until the VIX is confirmed. And again, it's no different than getting in a little too early and touching something before it's ready. I mean, you're just wrapping up capital in these products that just are crap. When they work, great. Can you go? You got to catch a quick. You might as well trade options if you're going to trade these stocks. And you can trade better companies' options than you can these VIX products all day, every day. I'm amazed that people who, ask questions about these, you got to be very careful when to buy them. Very careful. I mean, I hate these things. I mean, I just absolutely hate them because people are like, oh, you can't trade them. It's like, no, because, I mean, I've seen things where they make sense to get in and to trade them, and then this happens. Like the VIX has been flatlining, yet these just continue to get beaten. I mean, it's down 25%, while the VIX has just gone nowhere. I don't want to hold something that can decay that rapidly or get beaten that hard. Again, but you cannot draw Fibonacci's. You cannot chart decaying ETFs. That's like, again, I made that analogy, like getting in the water and being like, hey, sharks, I'm going to stay and swim in the ocean. Don't bite me. No, these products are just deteriorating pieces of crap. There's no charting to them. Notice I don't chart. I don't draw on any of this stuff. Fibonacci extensions. What's the extension? To zero? I mean, again, what's your upside here? What are you charting? Well, again, you need to know with 100% certainty and seasonality that the VIX is going to pop. If not, these things are just burning, slow burning sage. You're just wafting incense into your face as you're burning money in these names. Again, retail play these names. They say directional daily. Potentially, which is, I forget. Like, right? Isn't this daily one? I mean, again, even if it's not, it doesn't matter. It's like, where do these go? Where do these go? You're trying to catch the one-off event, which I get it. The big spike. Everyone is, honestly. I mean, with these names. And it's like, it's just not worth it, man. Just not. Thanks. Hey, thanks, Bamf. I appreciate it, man. I know a lot of people are struggling, and the people who aren't like yourself, I mean, I know you're printing money because you're trading the market, but you're also being thoughtful of like, all right, if you're wrong, you're gone, and you're not overextending yourself. Again, I'm just amazed that people want to buy these stupid products way too early and say, well, I'm going to swing trade the UVXY. Why don't you wait for the market to confirm it's topped and it's going to roll over before you get into these names? Because you could trade 1,000 other things. You're wrapping up capital in these shitty products. I get emotional about it because I've seen this. I've been caught in this multiple times where I'm like, all right, the VIX, the market's going to roll over. Nothing's confirming. I buy the UVXY at 6, 7, and then it just melts and melts and melts and melts. And it's like, do you like to lose tens of % potentially being early? No. I mean, again, you have to know your downside. You have to always be worried about your damn downside. Still, but these both decay. I mean, all these VIX ETF products decay. They're trash. Unless the move is going. And when the move's not going, hanging out in them is not a trade. It's just like you might as well just be feeding money into an ETF or an ATM for the market maker. That's just typically how it plays out. Well, look at that. XOP flying. Starting to fly, y'all. All right. Think we're going to make it. Da, 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 da. And so here you go. You know how we talk about. Everyone stop for a second if you're listening. Pay attention. Chop zone resolves. The trap leads to the direction. So pretend this is the SPY. You want to see it resolve up, then down if you're bearish, in my opinion. That's the best trade because now everybody's out of position. Think about it. Everybody's shorting, selling, giving up. Oh, XOP's crap. Kramer likes it. Yada, yada, yada. Breaks lower. Knocks everyone out. Capitulates. Rallies right back. That setup, if you don't know that chop setup where the trap, we talked about that with First Solar. I mean, I was screaming that. Who remembers this one? Screaming. This is the setup you want. The chop, 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 pop, flop. Chop, 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 pop, flop. I'm telling you, that is one of the best setups. Again, if you're shorting, look at this stuff. I mean, I don't know how to explain to people. Do not short the market other than for scalps. And if you can build positions into winners, there you go. We'll see. I mean, it's just, all right, look, CF, if you bought it at 80, hot toddies for you, my friend. And you got to love the straight line action, too, because then you got the capitulation. You got the wipeout. Mosaic, if you guys bought it with us at 42, 43, hot damn. Hot damn, somewhere in the city. No, I mean, you're just gapping up over the 20-day. Things at the market. Again, here you go. SPYs. Everyone's like, oh, it has to get over 385 to be bearish. No, there's names that are acting better within the market. It's like, how many of you guys have played, guys and gals have played a sports game? You saw the final score, but you didn't realize how close it was. Or you don't really know much about the game because all you saw is the final score. If you're just looking at the open and close on the SPYs every day and you're watching the SPY action, you're missing out on the game. That is the game within the game. Does this help? Because I swear to God, like it seems hard, but it's not. It's all experience. You're getting a free tuition bill here. You're learning from the eyes of someone who's gotten absolutely smoked, beaten, and throttled trading, but have figured out ways to make sure I manage risk where I don't get obliterated. I don't go broke. And I'm telling you, one of the biggest things you have to always be aware of is what is the news portraying as fact versus what is priced in. Because we don't know the future. Market hates the uncertainty, but it can price in bad news. It can price in good news when it's known. Well, if everybody is screaming recession, is that the bottom or the top? If everybody's screaming, the market is amazing, you must buy Tesla, is that the bottom or the top? Is it that simple? Keep in mind, it can be. You have to be thoughtful of it. All right, any thoughts, questions? Discord room? Yep, TLT, green. Again, we talked about interest rates. The market's going to like it if rates come down. TLT goes up. Now, again, velocity matters because if the economy's about to crash, then yes, the TLT would go screaming higher. But at this point, stability, choppiness. I mean, again, maybe that's a bigger move than I thought. But is the market and the TLT diverging? I mean, it looks like it a little bit. Oil, you're lucky. You're welcome. Posting these trades, talked about mid-60s. You bought UNG. It might not be till tomorrow. But, I mean, again, people say, oh, look at the volume, fib extent. I'm like, I tried to draw it. And, again, it just never matters. It just never matters. Again, decaying ETFs, your worst nightmare when you're wrong. When you're right and they're making a ton of money, you feel like a champ. You feel like the smartest person in the world. Again, thank you, Bam. Because, I mean, I feel like there's always a handful of people who wake up to the fact that in trading, their emotions, their beliefs, and their thoughts are their biggest problems. And I see it on the Discord room all the time. Like, you think certain things because of certain ways you're wired. You have to shed every layer of complexity in your mind, and alpha needing to be right, needing to do things, to learn how to trade correctly. Because it's literally a patience game. It's pretend you and I are in a duck blind and we're waiting for the ducks to fly by and shoot them. We don't fire every minute, every hour, every day for the best opportunities to get our dinner. Now, if you want to shoot all the time, guess what? Good luck. Trade around your positions. Manage them. I'm telling you, trading is hard. It is absolutely hard. But if your emotions are clouded, if you read, again, this is why I don't think about it. I don't watch CNBC ever. Never, ever watch CNBC. I don't need to. All I do is read headlines. And I interpret the headlines from the position if I was a fish, dumbass, who goes, oh, I got to react to that, and the people who are placing the ads, the news, essentially. Yeah, there you go. SPY high of the day. Thank you. Prophetic, poetic. I'm trying to think of like Tribe Called Quest lines there, but it's not coming to my head. Yeah, there you go. Roblox, rip right back. I'm trying to explain to people that timing is always going to be the hardest damn part. It's always going to be the hardest part. You think, and this is why the market loves for people to buy options and give themselves a limited time. It's like the bucket shop. You got to be right away. By the end of the day, you don't get your ticket. Ticket ends up worthless. Well, again, you can tell the folks who trade options exclusively versus the people who trade stock and options. Because the people who trade stocks go, well, I know chop is a bitch. And I know chop plays out. And I know pullbacks happen. I know things happen that I can't control. And if I put a time frame right now, then you're gone. I appreciate it, Shannon. I mean, again, we're not always right, but we're trying to sidestep the obvious easy mistakes. And stops in your plan have to be executed. Now, again, is every quarter, month, week going to be amazing? No, we know that. But it's think of it, your account balance should be like a bullish stock chart. Higher highs, higher lows. Every time you new low, you learn something. And you learn something, you add it to the pile of rules. Do you have core gold and silver mining positions? I bought GDX at 48 yesterday and silver for today. Still holding my core gold and silver to GDX will be over 100 this year. Scott, no. No, I don't have any core gold and silver positions. I dumped them all. I'm waiting for dips. GDX over 100? Nah, probably not. Probably not this year. Absolutely not over this year. I mean, GDX, think about the components that are in it. They're pieces of shit. I hate Newmont. I hate Barrick. They're legacy big miners with tons of debt. And if oil prices go higher, then their inputs, their cost of mine is not good. It's mediocre. So, will the GDX get to 100? No. You're going to have to trade around it. It's a bull market in those things. I've said this over and over. If you didn't get the dip in December, which we didn't really get one here, I'll show you gold. And people are like, oh, but you should buy it back. No, I'm not going to buy it back. I'll let it go. Because at some point, there will be multi-day pullbacks. Even in uptrends. We're into points where, hey, could it fail? Could it continue? I don't know. This is major resistance. But if the market goes higher, you're getting the same exposure of gold, right? The markets and gold, certain names, materials, it's all the same. But it's leading. No one can argue that. That's where it's like one of these things that's funny. It's like people are like, gold only goes up when the market goes down. Wrong. No, it doesn't. It does what it's going to do. Look at the dollar pull back. Yep, it's starting to rally. It's just one of those things where you can't put certainty into particular names. Like those narratives are always changing. If you sold GDXU, I mean, if I sold gold miners, I'm buying agriculture names. I'm buying oil and gas. That's what essentially my play on that is. If that makes sense, why people are like, well, you're going to buy gold here? I'm like, well, no, I kind of like the ag names, and I like oil and gas for the same kind of commodity-related name potential. Now, are these the leaders? Now, that would look leader-ish, right? I agree. But is the upside grand on GDX? I mean, it went from 21 to 31. Not that it can't go higher. I don't know. It's a great question because it's like one of those things like, but if you think GDX is going over 100 and the gold's going to go straight line move all the time, you have to remember here, and this is what's kind of cool, man. Let me show you guys some stuff because as someone who's been trading gold for 20 years, you just get used to gold playing games. And it's not one of those things where it has to be that complex. So we've always said that gold's in a big cup and handle, right? Big cup and handle. If it gets up to the range highs, like it always does, it's probably going to find sellers. I mean, we're also coming into some levels here at 174 where, you know what, it might get tired. Keep in mind, remember everyone's talking about like, man, this thing's down 7 straight months. Wow, missed it. Okay, well, we talked about it bottoming. Really, and so here's again where being right and doing what the market's going to do is crucial because I wanted to see 148. But then on the daily, again, go watch the recaps from like November 3rd, 4th. We talked about it. All right, well, it's down a ton and the action is now printing a bottom. So it was going to rise. Well, now what? I mean, here's the thing. Even in the up markets, you're going to get months of pullback. The hardest thing right now for me to chase gold here, no matter what the hell is going on, is that if the market does have a pullback, I don't think gold's going to be immune to it. So let it run. It helps me confirm things look okay, bullish, not that bad, near term. The chase gold, again, I don't chase anything. I just don't. I expect pullbacks. I expect weakness. All of my biggest mistakes have been chasing and then something changing and going, well, guess what? I've been waiting. It's so strong. And again, this is like novice thinking that I have to buy it. Remember, we talked about checking the daily again. You had to buy it here. I mean, it was playing a game. Did an outside reversal day past post-Feds. Zinc, easy money, took off some profits and said, wait for the 200-day, take the rest. All right, that's a good trade. 168 from the 150, 140s. I guess it was 150s. Now what? Does that make sense? Like, yeah, you could have bought these dips. If I didn't buy these dips, I'm not buying dips, right? Like, I'm not going to chase. What are my SPY positions? I don't have any calls on the... Well, actually, I did buy calls. I bought SPY 379s on the dip this morning. I layered out of my SPY calls and a little bit of stock yesterday and bought back this morning. Talked about it. Chop. Play the chop. We knew 379, 3. I mean, again, people are like, what exact price? I'm like, it doesn't even matter. As soon as I saw something under 380, I started making some trades. So, yeah. I'm the same thing, IDDoc. Again, like, you have to remember, like, everyone is confident GDX is going to 100 when it's ripping. That makes me scared. Like, because, I mean, nobody was talking about buying it down here, and we said, this looks like the floor. Looks like the floor here at 23. This was a little trappy trap. And now it's rallying. That's the thing. Going to 100, that to me sounds like you don't want to take profits. And as someone who is try to wire into people, the more you're up, the less you own because you can buy the dips and nothing's certain. Again, gold bugs right now, I mean, they're on hopium. They're pretty high. I mean, again, I have physical. As everyone I've recommended for years, you should have physical. Like, that's different. But at this point, trading that stuff, if you got winners, cool. Congrats. That's awesome. I mean, again, I'm never going to tell people, like, this is the wrong trade. Like, if you bought the dip and it's working, it's working. I mean, gold in itself holding up. I mean, the narratives are hilarious, though. Just be aware that, like, the narratives are always the narratives. If you studied the past, you've traded gold and miners at any point in your life for years, you just got to learn to tune that crap out. Trade the chart. Personally, I see this, I get a little nervous on distributive action, but doesn't mean it can't make a higher high or continue going higher if the market holds up. Maybe gold does lead. Right? Maybe gold does lead. What is it, November? Yeah, I mean, bottom that same day, leading up. Yeah, you got to trade gold in the miners other than the physical. I mean, I think the hardest thing that people don't realize about gold, silver, the miners, is that when they're in uptrends, it's great. It's easy. I'm hoping this is the bottom, but we need, if you want to believe gold miners are going to absolutely shred, you need the gold. You need gold to get over $2,000 an ounce for them to absolutely explode. If you want to see like GDX double and triple, like people are expecting, right? I mean, because here's again, like, let's check out the monthly. I don't think a lot of people understand this about the miners. When they pivoted in 2008, 16 up to 67, up to 100. Well, you're going to need to get gold flying. Now, people say, oh, look, the gold should be at, the miner should be up here at 50s. No, it doesn't work like that. Gold companies are run like crap. Their input costs continue to rise. They're not what they're saying. I mean, it's like not as obvious. Like they're raising debt. They're diluting shares. They're doing all sorts of things to, destroy the value of the companies that they own. Like they're the worst run company sometimes, which is sad. Oh, look at that, 385. Where's Mr. Oops? What are you doing, bud? You have me very concerned about your posting because you keep saying market's bearish, bears are winning. It's bullish, but bears are winning. Sorry, I'm like, I don't think they're winning. I think it's like what do you call it? The Matador. Like they're holding up the red sheet to get bears running off the cliff kind of thing. But we'll see if it resolves today. I mean, there is a reason why getting to cash yesterday gave me more of a neutral perspective. Because if we drop down, perfect. I can buy the dips. And if we rose higher, great. I'm not really that concerned. But now that we bought the dips, do you want to trade around it again? We'll see. I agree with you, but I'm looking at a scenario where currencies, yeah, dude, Scott, I read the same stuff you do. Yeah, and then it goes. They've been saying that for 20 years, Scott. At some point, currencies all go, and then it's done, and then gold goes to the moon. That same belief is probably what has trapped more people in gold and silver than ever. Just trade it. I'm telling you, it's a chart thing. Just do what the chart is doing. At some point, and keep this is the biggest problem with everybody trying to buy gold paper. The paper might be worthless. So that whole trade of currencies explode and gold goes higher, well, you better own physical. Because that trade works way better with physical safely than buying paper. That's just my opinion. SPX now looks like it's breaking that freaking wedge it's been in for the past 2 weeks. Well, again, we talked about, how many people here, raise your hand if you remember, all week we said the market probably is not going to resolve until the jobs number or more data is presented. The middle of this week was a nothing burger. Nothing burger. Nothing burger. It's that simple. And that's the thing. Now you get the news and the market drops and it rips right back. Does that seem bearish? Go CF, you little minx. Bought that dip. Did not have any after I got stopped out. That thing was frustrating. But Mosaic has been helping me out here, feeling a little better. Anyone else buy NTR or check that out? Yep, you said that many times. Yeah, again, I'm a broken record, but I'm trying to make people aware of all the scenarios. You have to act on them, naturally. All right, think we're gonna make it. Great video, Dan. I work for a bank. I have a lot of ES people. You think good time to sell up? That's a tough one. What is your goals here? When you say you work at a bank and you have a bunch of money and it's doing well, why is it not showing? ESPP. What am I? Am I like, oh, what tickers are you talking about? ESPP isn't a ticker. I'm assuming you're talking about certain type of financial employee stock purchase. Yeah, that's what I was talking. I'm like, yeah, I think Ally. Okay. This is tough because we recommended going to cash at the end of 2021. Go watch. It's pinned to my Twitter. There's going to be a tech war. Who wins it? It's going to be commodities. Go to cash. Well, now if you are long term and you never took any cash, it's tough. This is like no different than shorting on the lows because you're like chasing. You're selling stock as the market is nearer the lows than the highs. Because long term, it's different, like stock names versus the market. I like Netflix short here. I don't know. Maybe if the market fails at 385. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's tough. I mean, if you want to be a partial trader, this is how I always tell people. Like, people don't want to take on the responsibility of owning their decisions. Well, if you're unsure, partially taking profits, because this is the thing. If you're always all in, you can never buy the dips. It's the same thing in when we do and manage our IRAs and investment funds that are like hard to manage. It's like as a bull market proceeds, we're taking some off on the straight line. Everybody's excited bullshit. And then when the market drops 10, 15, 10%, 5%, whatever it is, you go, all right, well, the seasonality is a time to add some back. Because there's always, on average, I think 10% corrections a year, minimum. So, it's just part of the game. Would you sell now? Yeah, all-in trading costs you money versus trading at a core. There's so many opportunities when managing a position than just all in all the time. Because if you understand the game as for volatile, the volatility from what it is, that's part of it. It's like varying your bet in blackjack. You don't get rich betting the same amount at blackjack. It's all about varying your bets. When you're hot, increase them. When you're cold, decrease them. Same thing as taking profits and then putting them in your pocket, the chips in your pocket. Your ESPP, your employee-sponsored purchase program, plan, whatever. I like banks long-term, but I think they have volatility. That's a tough one. I wouldn't short Netflix here. You're a rising tide. If your bet on Netflix has to coalesce with the market rolling over. If it does, it works. If not, Netflix could just play high and tight. Be careful with that one. I personally am not shorting anything. I don't think it makes sense to short anything. Just keep buying dips and selling rips. Actually, shorting doesn't leave you much downside. That's what I keep trying to. If you look at this chart on Netflix, where does the short work? Wrong. Okay. Maybe today. Lower high, lower low. Potentially. Yeah, you never really know, right, Ramya? Like, that's what's so hard about longer-term investing theses. You have to be just willing to take profits when you're up and then buy dips. Is the bear market over? Probably not. Worst case scenario, this is going to be years of just choppy action with range boundness from maybe 4,000 to who knows what the low ends up being, 3,000. Maybe it's 3,300, 30. That's tough to know. That is absolutely tough to know. But you have to remember, the market, interest rates 5-6% aren't that crazy. The market can still go higher with that interest rates if the economy and wages start to rise. And again, money will rotate. It's not destroyed. It's not like the market, all of a sudden, the market drops, there's no more money. No, for every win, there's someone, for every loss, someone's winning. Money rotates. Yeah, I wouldn't be shorting any stocks right now. There's just better trades, if that makes sense. Like, good God, look at Nucor. You're welcome. It's like, it's the same thing as buying the market when it's not going higher. It doesn't work. Like, shorting it's like pissing in the wind. You're going to get some on your feet. You might be right, but let the wind change. Or turn around. I don't know why people think they have to short right now. There's nothing saying the shorts are working. There's leadership. Markets are going higher. certain names are going higher. There's actual leadership here. It's just not the traditional leadership, hence why most people are confused. They're like, well, look at Tesla and Apple, and they're not leading. Well, guess what? Money's rotating. There's new leadership. The market is not always going to be Apple and Tesla. Keep in mind, these ETFs will dump losers and start buying the winners. That's how you get the straight line, absolute bonkers moves that you got in materials in 2008. Or sorry, not 2000, in the mid-2000s. I'm just amazed how people don't realize letter X can turn into Tesla. Right? They just don't experience the past. They don't understand momentum. Momentum. When it changes, it's gone. Well, it doesn't mean now here, this is what's always hilarious. I got to buy Microsoft. No, you really don't. You don't need to buy Tesla. You don't need to buy Microsoft. You don't know. You can have decades of nothingness. Momentum is lost. You don't want it. That's why we're always trying to pivot and trying to find the next leadership. So if you want to trade tech, you want to buy tech, you can. It's just, you're not going to see days like today where Nucor 8.67%. Gas 3, 4, 5, 6%. Tech is really struggling to build a base. Now, some of the shittier tech might bounce more, but that's fine. Just pick your names well. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? If not, I'll wrap this up. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Yeah, that's how I am. I have feelings. Have feelings, thoughts, beliefs that are flexible. I'm telling you, if you can't be mentally flexible, it doesn't matter how smart you are. You can be Paul Krugman, right? You can be a great economist. You can be some of these idiots on TV. You can't execute. I mean, I've studied from a lot of teachers, and one thing, they all have different styles, but one thing they can do is they can execute and they can stick to the damn plan. And guess what? When they're wrong, they're like, I'm gone. And guess what? They get tricked. I mean, if you think that your goal is to win 100% of the time, you're naive. The goal is to win 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And those 1, 2, when you're wrong, God, try to take the smallest loss possible. Or if you're in names that aren't working, pivot and move on. Like, people just can't do that. They say, well, I got to stay in Tesla and trade Tesla. I got to own Tesla. Okay. Well, guess what? You own Tesla, and we'll buy commodities, and we'll talk in a year from now, and we'll see who's up and who's down, or who's up and who's flat, whatever. I don't mean, who knows? Probably by the end of the year, the markets will be potentially have priced in the worst case scenarios for the market, but we still got a long. It's January. It's January 6th, not December 6th, 2023. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Please be careful out there. I mean, if you're shorting, you're pissing in the wind. Buy the dips, sell the rips. It's really that simple. I mean, if you want to short, just know your downside is limited if the market is breaking out. And we've told you leadership was leading to higher highs. We've said this many times. Who watches the daily recaps and is not surprised by the market making higher highs here? The IWM leading. Dollar going nowhere. TLT being bought. Rates stabilizing. Oil bottoming. God forbid, natural gas bottoming. I don't care if Cramer agrees with me. I'm looking at the charts because Cramer, this is the thing about Cramer. If everyone hates Cramer and thinks Cramer's going to be wrong, at some point he's going to be right. This is a game of probabilities. Someone cannot be right or wrong all the time. So what Cramer likes, I don't give a shit. What he doesn't like, I don't care. I look at the charts from my perspective versus what, again, because I know what the market makers are trying to do, and I'm trying to do what they're doing. Will they trick me? Absolutely. So I don't need to worry about anybody else or Cramer. Like, try to dig into the evidence. Be evidence-based probability traders. If Cramer likes Nucor, well, why wouldn't I like Nucor if you could have bought it when we talked about it in the 130s? Because if you didn't buy it because you were worried about Cramer, well, that sucks for you, right? In general. I'm not talking, I'm just saying in general. Well, I can't buy it because Cramer likes it. Well, that trade, there's evidence that sometimes even blind squirrel finds nut. Is Meta a buy right now? People don't ask these questions when the market's at 379 or 380 this morning. It's hard to, it's funny in the Discord room. It's real quiet. Like, hey, should you buy anything? And it's like posting buying CF, thoughts on buying the SPY, talking about the markets bottoming. Now, do I want to buy Meta? I mean, it's like the gold conversation. Do you want to buy gold right now while it's ripping? Do you feel, and I'm talking about hypotheticals, not just you, but like hypotheticals. Like, do you feel like your emotions are saying that this is the time to buy that has the best risk reward and the least downside if wrong? Well, Dan, if the market goes higher, Meta could go higher. Yep. No one's going to argue that. But I'd feel way better about buying a dip when the market's down versus when it's up. You get so conditioned not to do that crap. Because how many times do you have to get burned? I mean, that becomes the ultimate question when it comes to trading. Why do you have rules? Well, again, if you want to hit goals, you have to do certain things, objectives, to get there. You don't get a six-pack abs and ripped by eating like crap and not going to the gym. Like, there has to be certain fundamental things that you do every time that aren't negotiable. And chasing, for me, is not negotiable. I don't chase. Oh, but what if it's going to go to 100? Good. Or 200? Good. Along the way, there'll be a dip. I mean, you just have to trade like that. And if you don't do that, I'm just telling you right now, I can see your future. The market maker is sitting there. Come on in, have a quick cocktail, take a seat. What's in your bag, sir? Oh, you've got 10,000, 50, 100, 200,000 in your account. Well, here, please take a seat. This is how this works. We give you drinks, you lose. It's no different than casino. They lure you in mentally to get comfortable, and we're always on red alert in our mind. That's why chasing no different. Like, all right, if everyone's excited about something, the contrarian in me goes, well, it's probably not going to do that. Or if it is, then it could be a blow off. But even then, like, there's 1,000 other things I could trade. Do I have to do something right now, right away, because I see a price action in something? And that's what I tell people. I'm like, no. That ability to sit there patiently is what gets you rich when you have the right trades and you don't chase. And you can absorb, you can absorb chop. Let's remove it. If you can absorb chop, you can absorb insecurity. I mean, we talked about roadblocks, buying it down here. Sold, added this morning. I mean, I posted that at 29. Gifts. Again, trading around the position. If it ever just pulls over, something bad happened, dumps, I'm not sitting there with a total gain that just got evaporated. I'm printing money along the way. I hope, and again, if you can't do that, all or nothing trading all the time is complete gambling and assuming you're going to win. And if you run out the iterations and you go through your brain, you go, well, this could happen, I could be wrong. This could happen. All right, you start realizing, all right, well, maybe I should layer off based on the insecurities I have. The higher the market rips, the more likely it pulls back. Every time that's been the case. At some point, will it go straight line move? Potentially. Well, if you have half of that and you've been booking gains along the way, are you really going to be that pissed? No. What happens if all of a sudden something happens wrong and it totally flips out and turns over and you have to sell out for where you got in? Well, at least you had some gains. Remember, this is a business. If you're running this like a gambling game, you are a fucking idiot. Because you are not beating the game. This is like pretending to go to play blackjack and sit there for 10 hours and play the game straight up. No, you have to have a mechanical edge. Not mechanical, a statistical edge. By varying your bet and doing things based on a plan. There goes Netflix back to positive. Does this make sense? I mean, I feel like I'm talking to myself, and if I am, and I need to hear it myself. I mean, always listening and knowing to this stuff. That's why the Livermore book's so powerful. It talks about the mind. I mean, think about when his wife killed his son. I mean, he literally fell off a planet and lost all his money. It was all mental. It's not like he just didn't know how to trade all of a sudden once adversity hit. He gave up mentally. People give up mentally all the time in trading, and they say, well, I'll take the power out of my hands and put it in the markets. I don't care. Let's just see what happens. That's gambling. Did people, I mean, maybe no one's listening. Don't care. Talking to myself. That is the truth that needs to be heard. And that people will get. On days like today, you're probably happy that you're up. You're excited. naturally. But don't lose focus. If your plan was to take profits, do it. If your goal was to buy the dip and let it ride into next week because of seasonality, right? Then you do it. Go look at the Stock Traders Almanac. What's next week? Bullish. I know a few of you guys are listening loud and clear because I appreciate all the donations. And I mean, I know you guys understand the value in an education for free once you verify it works. I mean, you should know the Livermore book. And I'm telling you, Neo, this is a good thing. Buy the audio. I listen to like an hour of that every once in a while. If I'm driving along, I love listening to that book because every time I listen to it, and everybody here who's read it or listened to it agrees, every time you listen to it, there will be something in that book that applies to what's going on right now. And when I say now, always. Like market's in a chop, market's going down, market's going higher. It's the summer, it's the spring, it's the fall, it's the winter, it's certain times of the year. Yeah, dude, Shannon, people give up all the time. They don't realize their power is their plan and sticking to it. And when they're wrong, they go, it's kind of no different than people staying stuck in a bad job or staying in a bad relationship or just being depressed. Like they just don't think they have the power to get out of it. You file so you listen to it. Nice. People just lose their powers. And I'm telling you right now, you have to have the power. You have to beat the market maker at his own game. And keep in mind, the market maker's game is not to beat intelligent people. It's to take the dumb money. You know, that's the easy game, is to take dumb money. So if you assume like they have recurring tendencies and thought processes, well then guess what? Now you've like know the parameters of the game. You can adjust accordingly. You can pivot your mind. You can pivot your plays. You can pivot your thoughts. That's why that's why like the Discord, like the beginner room, it's always like interesting to me to read how like they think the Bears are winning. I don't see that. When you have leadership within CHOP, that's leadership. That's up. Just like when stuff was starting to turn over, you had the market going sideways and you had CF and you had all these names going down. But you had leaders going down, which you had Apple, you had Tesla, you had tech all leading down. Missed this move, but guess what? Do you think you're going to hit every fucking gyration in the market every year? No. It was better to miss the move and then wait and buy than to chase and start shorting. This is tough. This is absolutely tough. Yep, Roblox screen. If you are playing the game through the perspective of that you need to be right versus you need to do what the market's doing, I am old turkey. That's why people used to joke, hey, old turkey, what's the market doing? I'm like, if the market's going higher and you have leadership, then the trade isn't shorting. That's people on TradingView before I got banned there. Some people used to say, hey, old turkey, what's going on with gold? Or what's going on? Because I'd be like, why would you short gold if the gold's going higher? Why would you short the market if the market's going higher? And I mean, there's been times where I thought the market should drop and I shorted it and it fucked me. So I'm not immune to that. It's just I learned my lesson. At a certain point, like, old turkey is kind of right. Like, what is really going on? Like, if you looked at the S&P 500 and go, well, it's bearish, then you have not paid attention to anything we've been tweeting or posting or the recaps. That's fair. If there's new folks here, then that's understandable. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate the love, support, the donations. I mean, again, your tuition bill is as high as you want it to be. You want to be aggressive? Guess what? It's going to be high. You want to be over trading? It's going to be high. You want to try to outsmart the market with big money versus little money in practice trading? Your tuition bill is going to be high. Goal is to hang out, learn, watch the recaps, watch the Back to Basics videos, get involved. Because I'm telling you right now, everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs performance training to be great at anything. If you think you're just going to wake up by osmosis and understand the markets, you are an absolute idiot. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because it's like talking to your kids and thinking that somehow you're 40 or 50 and your kids are smarter than you. No. You learn through experience life. You learn things from experiencing all that you have. Well, you're being a kid if you think somehow you're just going to show up and trade well. You've been doing this for 30 days, 3 years. You're a novice. You don't know it until you don't. And a lot of that has to come from learning, what does and doesn't work, why the markets do what they do, and also being extremely patient and disciplined. Because the people that aren't, there's one guaranteed result: failure. And you can still fail being disciplined and trying to execute well. Just keep that in mind. Like, there's times where if you over leverage, you do things on margin, you do things with options, and you might have discipline, but guess what? A gap comes, or the market news comes and takes and wipes that out. That's why I always tell people, worst case scenario, always have that in the back of your mind. What is the worst case scenario? Well, for me, buying Tesla, the worst case scenario is probably it going nowhere. What's the worst case scenario for buying commodities? I don't know. If the base is in, probably going to resolve higher. That's how it looks like in my mind. I appreciate you guys. Please be safe. We'll connect this weekend. Talk to you later.